Now, you've been doing this 30 years, but you were telling me earlier that in the last year, you've seen some things that even surprises you, which for Dr. Joe Dispenza, I mean, that must really mean something monumental when you're like, wow, I can't believe the kind of transformations that are happening. What are you doing different, and how is this changing the course of your future?
Well, you know, I mean, I never planned on doing any of this. You know, I just never planned on doing any of this. But after my injury and I started studying spontaneous remissions and looking to see if other people had a similar experience as me.
And definition of a spontaneous remission is?
You're treating conventionally or unconventionally, and you're staying the same or you're getting worse, and all of a sudden you get better. And I wanted to know what the cause was that produced that effect. And spontaneous remission is a safe phrase for the medical world because they don't want to correlate it with any indicator, especially if it happens outside of the current belief. So when I studied spontaneous remissions, I traveled to 17 different countries and started asking some really important questions that people had breakthroughs and healed. And I wrote a book about it, and then when I realized what the common things were, I thought, well, if it had worked on sick people, it should work on well people. And so we started teaching seminars and events. So fast forward now, when we started seeing people in our events start healing in a weekend workshop, like tumors shrinking by 40%, hearing coming back. I mean, crazy stuff that you just, for me, I could go with it, but I was like, they got to be signaling genes in order to do this. So then I thought, okay, let's measure. So then I gathered a group of scientists and researchers, and we started doing these advanced workshops. And you know, we measured everything. We measured brainwaves. We've measured HRV, you know, heart rate monitors. We've measured the energy of the room, the energy around people's bodies, the energy centers of their bodies. We've measured immune response. We've measured neurotransmitters. We've measured gene expression, gene regulation. We've measured telomere lengths. And in every single experiment that we've done around measuring our students in these 4.5-day events, what we call advanced workshops, we made history. Because we started seeing things that were just uncommon. So
that even surprised you?
Well, this is where it gets weird. So because I said, I understand that, I can see how that could happen. But then I realized that when we were doing 4-day events, like on that Saturday or Sunday when the event was ending, I was like, my goodness, everybody is totally broken through. The energy is amazing. People are super free. What if I had them for 3 more days? So I changed the whole model this year, and now all the weekend workshops are on an online course. They're called progressive workshops. I don't teach the 4-day advanced workshops, I teach the week-long advanced workshops. So now we've done 2 advanced week-long advances. And you know, people are standing in front of a camera. I didn't even see these people start talking about their disease or their condition, and in one instant in those events, people stepping out of wheelchairs. We had 3 people in our last week-long step out of a wheelchair. Now, I was very, very surprised in witnessing this. People, you know, that came with crutches and, you know, 2 crutches or walking without crutches with peripheral neuropathy where they couldn't feel their feet, spinal cord injuries. I mean, it just turned into this insane, like it was miraculous. And when I asked at the end of the event, how many people have had a healing or change in their health condition, I thought maybe I would see like, in our second event, a group of 850 people, I thought maybe we'd see like 20. It was like 150 people that stood up. And we started passing the mic around, and stories were outstanding. I mean, some latent systems must have been switching on in these people's bodies, because they walked out of there completely different than when they arrived. Now, half of it is getting people past that point. The other half is just the fact that as the energy starts to change, I mean, every time you react, you draw from an invisible field of energy surrounding your body and you turn it into chemistry. And the vital field of energy that's being emitted from your body shrinks a little bit. Keep reacting every single day because of some threat in your external environment, real or imagined. You keep doing that, you draw more and more energy from the field, and you have no vital energy for growth and repair. In fact, you feel like you're more like matter and less like energy, more like particle and less like wave. And when we're driven by the hormones of stress, which is about 70% of the time for most people, we force outcomes, we control outcomes, we try to predict outcomes, we fight for outcomes, we manipulate outcomes because we're matter trying to change matter. And there's only a certain amount of things you can do, right? You compete, you do all those things. But when you begin to open your heart and you begin to regulate an elevated emotion.
That sounds like my life as a banker, by the way.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was forcing it. And,
Yeah.
you know, you can force it to a certain extent, at least you think you can.
It'll make you sick.
Yeah,
It'll make you sick.
it'll get short-term potential quote-unquote gains,
Right. But then but it's transient. So when people start to open their heart and they start creating an elevated state, and you can train people how to do this, and we measure it, the heart begins to beat in a more coherent way. It begins to produce a measurable magnetic field, 2 to 3 meters wide. That's frequency, that's energy, and all frequency carries information. So now the person lays the intent, the thought on that frequency. And the more elevated the emotion, it makes sense that that thought can only be carried by an emotion that's equal to that thought. In other words, you can't feel unworthy and have the thought of abundance. That energy or suffering, that thought can't be carried on that energy. It's got to be carried by an elevated state. So as you're sitting next to a person who's breaking free and opening their heart and giving up guilt for joy, giving up fear for courage, whatever it is, and they're regulating those states, and I'm sitting next to you, and our fields begin to interfere, all of a sudden, if you're coherent and I'm coherent, we're going to create a bigger wave. The higher the amplitude, the higher the energy in the room. So if you have 750 or 850 or 1,000 people doing this, there comes a critical mass moment where I just have to get out of the way, because now I'm no longer, it's already happening. There's a momentum.